I'm here speaking to one of our past pupils, Angela Bennett,
Yes.
now Angela Volpe. Thank you for coming to speak to us, Angela.
It's my pleasure.
So, Angela, tell us, during what years were you at Avila?
I was here so I finished in 1971, so I was here those 6 years before that. I spent 6 years, or 7 years actually, because I did the second year in year 12.
71.
Yes, I started in St Leonard's, and with 110 students, and there was, I believe, there was probably about 25 year 8s who'd come from the primary schools, and probably about 85 year 7s all in one classroom.
Yeah.
And it was like
wow.
Completely... Yeah, you couldn't stand up and move around without everybody in the row having to move and that sort of thing. It was very tight.
So crowded. Yeah. So what are your memories of Sister Patricia?
Sister Patricia, I remember as being she was short and very, she was a formidable, I would say, person. But as, you know, we were always a bit in awe of her because she was very strict, and that was the impression we got. But as I've grown and become older myself, I realised what an inspirational person she must have been to have had the vision to start this school. And, you know, in my memories, I just wrote that it would have been a money pit trying to get money to get this going and everything. And she was just, she was amazing. And in those days, when we moved to Mount Waverley, we moved to a building site. We moved to 2 buildings, and buildings were, the whole time I was here, something was being built.
Something was being built, yeah.
So I did write down a few memories. Yeah. So things like when we first came here, we used to wear these, I don't know if you would have had to do it, these brown, they were called indoor shoes, these Grosby slippers, because there was mud everywhere. There was no paths or anything, so to walk outside you just walked in a building site, and we wore these blue coveralls, these aprons that we had to wear over our clothing for the whole time we were here. But yeah, and it was like countryside all around here. We used to walk through the paddocks to come to school.
I was going to ask you about that. Were the paddocks that way and that way?
And that way, because I came from Sindel, and we walked through the paddocks beside the railway line to get to here. And there were no houses or anything. Yeah. And there were trees. The trees that are out there are probably still the same ones, but I can talk about one of my memories of there was... we used to climb the trees out there. The girls used to climb up the trees, and there was often snakes around the ground. And I can remember one particular time there was one girl up the tree sitting in a branch, and Sister Patricia, someone told her to get the hoe, so she came rushing out with the hoe and she hacked the snake. Like she was an amazing lady.
Yeah. We've got a bit of a folklore about her and the snakes. Yeah, she used to kill a few of them, didn't she?
Oh yes, there was nothing that she wouldn't do. So,
So Angela, you got any funny stories or anything?
I do have a few. Would you like me to talk about the fashion statement of... The fashion statement in those days was people wore witches' breeches under their uniforms, which was like a kind of bike pants that with frills on the bottom of it to cover your suspenders and stockings so that you could do handstands and hang from the trees outside. Another funny story I do remember is our first school trip to Central Australia. We went in year 11.
You had that early?
Yes, and we went in a suburban bus with the seats removed at the back so that we could put the suitcases in the back.
Oh, wow.
And it was just no air conditioning, just those little slide windows at the top. And we went with 2 nuns in full nun's gear, Sister Patricia.
My gosh.
And I can't quite remember the other sister. She was a twin.
Miss Joan Mitchell? Or one of the Mitchell twins?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a young teacher called Miss Amadis, who I realise now was a young graduate, who everybody loved, and Mrs Lawson, who was the geography teacher, and her whole family. And she took her teenage son, who was about 16, with all these girls. But
can you imagine doing that now?
Oh no! And it was funny because we had the big old canvas tents that we slept in, and I think the nuns must have slept in smaller ones around the outside. But what I think about now, having been back there a few times to Central Australia, that they wore the full habit right to the ground in the hot desert sun, and they climbed Ez Rock in those as well.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes. Another funny story was, and this comes from my mother actually, reminded me about this one, that the toilet seats were continually broken during those days, and the school council had to do a lot of researching to find out, and it was because the girls would stand on the seats and put elastic around their waist and hitch up their dresses in front of the mirrors, so the mirrors were removed from the toilets. So
I'm afraid that continued when I was here
Yes.
too. Yeah. The elastic was to make your dress shorter.
yeah, and I think most girls just loved being here. It was a very happy place.
Yeah.
And now as a retired teacher, I realised just how devoted the teachers were in those days to, you know, they really broke a lot of ground, especially the nuns. I think it was a
They were
huge
quite revolutionary.
Oh,
weren't they?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.